What happens when billions of dollars move through the financial system for criminal organizations, but nobody at the top goes to jail? What happens when a cartel leader is killed, but the system that funded him keeps operating? And what happens when markets cool, oil prices rise, and political speeches quietly reshape global risk, all at the same time? Today isn't just about markets, it's not about Mexico, and it's not about a banking scandal from the past. It's about one core tension, that tension being, does the scale of power change the scale of consequence? Since midnight tonight, global markets have turned more cautious. AI-driven optimism is cooling as investors reacted to mixed follow-through after major earnings. Even strong numbers from semiconductor and infrastructure leaders were met with muted upside. That's not collapse, that's valuation fatigue. When strong results stop producing strong reactions, it signals momentum is being questioned. European indices softened, US futures traded carefully, and tech leadership no longer guarantees automatic upside. At the same time, energy prices remain elevated. Diplomatic uncertainty in the Middle East is keeping supply risk priced into oil. Markets aren't reacting to confirmed disruption, they're reacting to probability. Risk carries a premium. United States President Donald Trump is scheduled to speak later this week, and markets are positioning around potential comments on tariffs, trade realignment, Federal Reserve leadership, and energy production policy. Treasury yields remain elevated as strong labor data reduces expectations of near-term rate cuts. Investors are in higher for longer mode, meaning markets move on expectations, not execution. US-Iran framework discussions are influencing oil volatility, not because a deal is finalized, but because uncertainty itself moves pricing. Gulf equity markets have weakened defensively ahead of diplomatic developments, and energy-linked economies reprice quickly when geopolitical positioning shifts. India continues strengthening strategic ties in the Middle East, reinforcing a broader multipolar alignment. Trade corridors, defense cooperation, and energy securities are shaping long-term capital flows in ways most people underestimate. This isn't panic, it's recalibration. But recalibration in markets is one thing, whilst recalibration in accountability is another. Between 2006 and 2010, HSBC failed to prevent billions of dollars of suspicious funds, including cartel-linked money, from moving through its systems. In 2012, the bank entered a deferred prosecution agreement, paid roughly $1.9 billion in fines, admitted serious anti-money laundering failures, and agreed to years of compliance monitoring. Here's the interesting thing though, no senior executives went to prison. Here's the part that requires discipline to understand. At the time, prosecutors publicly stated that criminally indicting a globally systematic bank, especially in the aftermath of the 2008 financial crisis, could have destabilized the broader financial system. Removing access to US dollar clearing or triggering institutional collapse might have created consequences far beyond the original wrongdoing. So, regulators made a calculation. Punish financially, force reform, avoid systematic shock. That's where the phrase "too big to jail" came from. Not necessarily because of secret bribery and backroom deals, but because scale changes risk. That same structural tension appears in Mexico right now. When cartel leadership changes, violence spikes because the underlying incentive models, hence demand, profit, corruption, black market economics, so on and so forth, remains intact. Removing a powerful person doesn't eliminate the system that made them powerful in the first place. Surface action does not equal structural resolution. Markets drifting lower does not mean collapse. AI cooling doesn't mean failure. A bank paying billions doesn't mean full accountability. And a cartel leader falling doesn't mean the network disappears. Now here's where this gets real. Markets are recalibrating because expectations changed. Oil is elevated because uncertainty has value, and political speeches move yields because policies are signed. Everything in finance is driven by incentives, and justice is no different. When an individual launders money, the system can punish them without systematic risk. When a globally interconnected institution fails, punishment itself becomes a risk calculation. Scale changes the equation. The larger and more embedded you are, the more your existence becomes tied to stability. Once stability becomes a priority, accountability starts being negotiated instead of enforced at maximum force. That doesn't automatically mean corruption. It means power accumulates insulation. The real pattern isn't chaos, it's gravity. Economic gravity, political gravity, institutional gravity. The bigger something becomes, the harder it is to move without shaking everything around it. This applies to the markets, it applies to banks, and it applies to global criminal networks. So today's principle is this: the scale of power determines the scale of consequence, and if you understand that, you stop reacting emotionally and start analyzing structurally. And when you analyze structurally, you begin to see how incentives, not headlines, shape outcomes. That's today's daily principle. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.